What if your money couldn't be frozen? What if your data wasn't for sale and your future didn't depend on getting permission from a bank, a government, or a platform? That's not a fantasy. It's a real idea with a name. It's called being a sovereign individual. In this video, I'm going to break down 3 things. What does sovereign individual actually mean? Why should you care? And the question most people skip, is it actually possible to live this way today? Or is it just a nice idea people talk about online? I'm a Bitcoin advocate, and I care about this because I think Bitcoin is one of the most powerful tools we've ever had for pulling this off. But I'm not going to oversell it to you. Let's get into it. Here's how we're going to break this down. First, where this idea actually comes from and what it means in plain terms. Second, why it matters right now, not in some abstract future. Third, an honest look at whether it's realistic for a normal person to pursue. And finally, some concrete steps you can actually take starting today. My core argument is this. Sovereignty isn't about running off-grid or cutting yourself off from society. It's about reducing how much you depend on systems that can fail you or fail on you. Let's start with where this idea came from. Back in 1997, before Google, before the iPhone, before most people had even heard of the internet as anything more than a curiosity, 2 authors, James Dale Davidson and Lord William Rees-Mogg, wrote a book called The Sovereign Individual. Their argument was bold. They said the internet and digital money would do to nation states what the printing press did to the church. For centuries, the church controlled the flow of information. Then the printing press broke that monopoly. Davidson and Rees-Mogg predicted that digital technology would break the state's monopoly on controlling you, your money, your information, your ability to move and operate freely. That was over 25 years ago. And a lot of what they predicted is starting to look less like theory and more like reality. So let's define this in plain terms. Being a sovereign individual isn't one single thing. It's really made up of a few different kinds of independence. The first is financial sovereignty. That means you control your own money. You're not dependent on a bank or a government to permit your transactions. You can save, spend, and move value without asking anyone first. The second is informational sovereignty. That's control over your own data, your identity, your communications. Not having your entire digital life sitting in some corporation's database, ready to be sold, leaked, or handed over on request. The third is geographic and legal flexibility. That means you're not permanently locked into one country for your opportunities or your safety. You have options. And underneath all of that is one core idea: self-custody. Not just of your money, but of your decisions. You hold the keys, literally and figuratively. Instead of outsourcing control to a third party you have to trust. Now, I want to be really clear about what this is not. Being a sovereign individual does not mean becoming a prepper, living off-grid, or rejecting society. It's not anarchism, and it's not about breaking laws. It's about optionality. It's about reducing the number of ways other people or institutions can coerce you without needing your permission first. That's the concept. Now let's talk about why it actually matters. Not as a philosophy, but in real practical terms. Let's move from theory to reality, because this isn't just an abstract philosophical debate. There's a track record here, and it's worth looking at honestly. Throughout history, currencies get debased. Governments, when they are under financial pressure, tend to reach for the same lever: print more money, dilute the value of what everyone's already holding. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's just monetary history, over and over again, in country after country. And it's not always some far-off crisis. Think about Cyprus in 2013, where the government moved in to seize a percentage of deposits directly out of people's bank accounts to help fund the bailout. Think about Lebanon in 2019, where the banking system effectively locked people out of their own savings. Argentina has cycled through currency crisis for decades. And in places like Nigeria, we've seen sudden cash restrictions that left ordinary people scrambling just to access their own money. These aren't edge cases from centuries ago. These are recent, real events, affecting regular people who thought their money was safe simply because it was sitting in a bank. Beyond money, there's the issue of privacy. Know your customer and anti-money laundering requirements have expanded steadily over the past 2 decades. Every account, every transaction, increasingly tracked and reported. There's active debate right now around central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and the concern isn't hypothetical paranoia. It's a legitimate policy question. What happens when money itself becomes programmable, and a central authority can control how, where, or whether you're allowed to spend it? We've also seen individuals and businesses get debanked, cut off from financial services, sometimes with little explanation and a few avenues to appeal. Put simply, institutions have tools to freeze, seize, inflate, or monitor. And historically, individuals have had very few tools to push back. This is where Bitcoin comes in. And I want to be specific about why, not just wave my hands at it. Bitcoin has a fixed, transparent supply, 21 million coins, full stop, with a monetary policy anyone can audit. No central authority can vote to print more. When you hold Bitcoin in self-custody, there's no counterparty risk in the way there is with a bank deposit. No third party who can freeze it, and no institution that needs to stay solvent for your savings to remain intact. That's really what "not your keys, not your coins" means. And it's permissionless. It settles across borders without needing anyone's approval. Now, I'll be straight with you. Bitcoin is not a magic fix. It's volatile. It's a tool, not a guarantee, but it's a fundamentally different kind of tool than anything individuals have had access to before, which is exactly why it's central to this conversation. So that's the why. Now for the hardest and most honest part of this video. Is any of this actually achievable for a normal person right now in the world we actually live in? This is the part where a lot of Bitcoin content gets it wrong. People either oversell this as something you can achieve completely right now with a hardware wallet and a VPN, or they dismiss it entirely as a fantasy for people with money and passports to spare. The truth is more nuanced than either of those. So let's actually walk through it honestly. Let's start with the case for feasibility. Self-custody is more accessible than it's ever been. Hardware wallets are affordable, well documented, and don't require a technical background to use safely. Multi-sig setups, where you need multiple keys to move funds, reducing single points of failure, used to be something only developers could configure. Now there are user-friendly tools for that too. The Lightning Network has made Bitcoin usable for everyday, small transactions. Not just long-term savings, but actual day-to-day payments with speed and low fees that weren't possible a few years ago. And beyond Bitcoin specifically, the broader infrastructure for personal sovereignty has matured. Remote work is normalized in a way it simply wasn't a decade ago. Digital nomad visas exist in dozens of countries now. There's a growing list of Bitcoin-friendly jurisdictions actively courting this kind of lifestyle. Encrypted communication, privacy-respecting browsers, decentralized identity tools. None of this was mainstreamed even 10 years ago. Now, the honest limitations, and this matters just as much. Full sovereignty is not a light switch. It's a spectrum. Most people, myself included, still rely on fiat banking rails, internet service providers, employers, and legal systems for huge parts of daily life. You can hold Bitcoin in self-custody and still be fully embedded in the traditional system for your mortgage, your job, your healthcare. There's real regulatory pushback to account for. On-ramps and off-ramps, the exchanges where you convert between Bitcoin and local currency, are heavily regulated with KYC requirements and travel rule reporting. You can custody your own Bitcoin, but the moment you interact with an exchange, a lot of that sovereignty narrows. There's also unavoidable friction with the state. Taxes, healthcare systems, legal residency. These aren't things you opt out of just because you're holding your own keys. And self-custody comes with a burden most people underestimate. It shifts responsibility onto you. Lose your seed phrase and there's no customer support line to call. That's not a small thing. Security becomes your job now, not a bank's. So where does that leave us? I'd frame it this way. Don't think of sovereign individual as a destination you either reach or don't. Think of it as a direction you move in. Every step, moving funds to self-custody, tightening your privacy habits, diversifying your income so it's not tied to one employer or one jurisdiction, building portable skills, all increases your sovereignty. None of those steps require you to renounce citizenship or disappear into the mountains. It's incremental, and that's actually good news because it means you can start today wherever you are. So let's make this concrete. If you are watching this and thinking, okay, where do I actually start? Here are 5 real actionable steps, not theory, things you can do this week. Step 1, move your Bitcoin off exchanges and into self-custody. If your Bitcoin is sitting on an exchange, you don't actually control it. The exchange does. A hardware wallet is inexpensive, and the setup process, while it takes a bit of patience the first time, isn't complicated. This is the single highest leverage action on this list. Step 2, learn real operational security. That means knowing how to store your seed phrase safely. Not a screenshot on your phone, not a note in your email. Consider a multi-sig setup once you're comfortable with the basics. It removes the single point of failure that comes with one key, one location. Step 3, diversify your income and build location-independent skills. Sovereignty isn't just about money sitting still. It's about your ability to earn without being tied to one employer, one industry, or one country's economy. Step 4, reduce your unnecessary data footprint. You don't need to disappear from the internet, but small habits, privacy-respecting browsers, being deliberate about what you share and where, compound over time. Step 5, actually understand your own jurisdiction's laws before you assume you're operating sovereignly. This is the step people skip, and it's the one that keeps you out of trouble. Sovereignty isn't about ignoring the law, it's about making informed decisions within it. None of these require you to move to another country or renounce anything. They're all things you can start this week. So let's bring this back to where we started. Being a sovereign individual isn't a switch you flip. It's a direction you move in, one deliberate step at a time. Bitcoin is one of the most powerful tools we've ever had for that journey. Fixed supply, self-custody, permissionless by design. But it's a foundation, not a finish line. The rest is up to how you actually live. I want to hear from you. Where do you think you fall on this spectrum right now? Drop a comment and let me know which of these 5 steps you're going to tackle first. If this video is useful, please subscribe to the channel and look out for the next video.